Hello, my name is Pooja. Welcome to the Sunday special episode of Around the World. We come up with this program every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. In this special program, we talk about the news which enhances your understanding of global politics. We will discuss one such news in today's story. Of late, there is a stir in the world that Latin America is changing now. The expansion of pink tide is being witnessed again in this region. Actually, the term pink tide was used for the wave of leftist governments that emerged in Latin America in the 2000s. It started with the arrival of leftist governments under Hugo Chavez in Venezuela, Evo Morales in Bolivia, and Lula da Silva in Brazil. Later, strong rule of right-wing governments was established in this region, but these governments are being replaced again by socialist and social democratic governments for the last 2 to 4 years. In June 2022, the leftist Gustavo Petro came to power in Colombia. In December 2021, a leftist government was formed in Chile under Gabriel Boric. Leftist politician Xiomara Castro came to power in Honduras. Pedro Castillo came to power in Peru in June 2021. Luis Arce came to power in Bolivia in 2020. Alberto Fernandez came to power in Argentina. And Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador came to power after winning Mexico's recent presidential elections. The biggest change in Latin America was witnessed in Brazil a few days ago when Lula da Silva won the presidential elections by defeating Jair Bolsonaro, known for his dictatorial attitude. And with this victory, Brazil turned from the extreme right ideology to the extreme left ideology. Bolsonaro secured 49.1% votes, while the Democratic leader Lula da Silva got 50.9% votes in this neck-to-neck contest. However, the margin of victory and defeat between both leaders was very less. But the return of the leftist government under Lula after a long time in Brazil is special in many ways. Against this backdrop, several pertinent questions arise. Firstly, what is the significance of Bolsonaro's defeat and Lula's victory? Secondly, what will be the challenges for Lula as the new president? Thirdly, what new turns will Brazil's bilateral relations with other countries take now? Fourthly, what changes can happen in Brazil's diplomatic relations with India? We will try to find answers to these questions in today's story. Let us first of all talk about the recent political developments in Brazil. Significantly, Bolsonaro is a member of the Liberal Party of Brazil. In 2019, he became the president of Brazil. He came to power by promising to strengthen the Brazilian economy. Bolsonaro promoted markets and privatization to increase employment and eradicate poverty in the country. But people did not like his policies. The real reason for Bolsonaro's defeat in the elections was the mismanagement during the corona pandemic. He had made fun of social distancing and lockdown by stating that stupid people stay at home. When people asked Bolsonaro about the number of people who died during the corona pandemic, then he gave a very insensitive answer by stating that the question should be asked to the grave diggers. It is quite obvious that if the attitude of the top leader of the country is so rude towards the people, then he will lose his popularity. The same thing happened with Bolsonaro. Apart from this, ordering the deforestation of the Amazon also became the reason for his defeat. Significantly, the Amazon forests are the largest tropical rainforest on Earth. This rainforest covers about 40% of South America. The Amazon forests cover 8 countries, namely Brazil, Bolivia, Peru, Ecuador, Colombia, Venezuela, Suriname, and Guyana. The deforestation of these forests, called the lung of our planet, accelerated significantly after Bolsonaro became the president. Due to the cutting of these forests, the existence of the tribes and animals living in these forests was threatened. It is well known that Bolsonaro was always in favor of the commercial exploitation of the Amazon forests. He had given a large part of this forest into the hands of private companies. Furthermore, the continuous fall of GDP in Brazil due to rising inflation and unemployment were the main reasons for Bolsonaro's defeat. On the contrary, the economy of Brazil was at the boom during Lula's tenure. At one point, Brazil became the 12th largest economy in the world. Brazil's inflation rate remained in unit digits during Lula's tenure. Brazil's inflation rate crossed double digits during entire 2022. At such a time, Lula's return to power has come as a ray of hope for the Brazilians. With his victory, Lula has reiterated his promise to the Brazilian people to uphold their social and environmental commitments. He has also promised to bring the country together and form a government that will work for the betterment of all Brazilians. But Lula's challenges will also be immense. The first challenge will be to keep the promises he has made to the Brazilians. Lula will also have to tackle climate change and save the Amazon forest on a priority basis. He will also have to ensure the stability of the country. Brazilians are not only divided on political lines but also on values, identity, and opinion. However, for Brazil, which is divided into two poles, right wing and left wing, Lula has clearly stated that he considers the entire Brazil as one people and one nation, and he will be working with all of them together. The special thing is that Lula has set such an example in his previous tenures too. It is worth noting that Lula has served as the president of Brazil twice from 2003 to 2006 and from 2007 to 2010. He is remembered for leading the country in an era of economic growth which saw a tremendous commodity boom in the country. Social welfare schemes and economic development programs were run on a large scale during his tenure. The programs implemented by his government had lifted nearly 20 million Brazilians out of extreme poverty. There were famous schemes like Bolsa Familia, under which money was given to poor children to go to school. He raised Brazil as a main player on the global stage. Former US President Barack Obama not only honored Lula with words like the most popular politician on earth, however, Lula was also tainted with corruption for which he was sent to jail in 2018. And Bolsonaro won the presidential elections in the same year. However, the charges against Lula later turned out to be baseless, and the Brazilian top court overturned his sentence in 2021. So far we talked about the internal politics of Brazil. Now we will talk about the turn in diplomatic relations which will take place with other countries during Lula's tenure as the new president of Brazil. Significantly, Bolsonaro has deep relations with former US President Donald Trump. But after Joe Biden became the US president, the relations between the two countries did not remain cordial like before. However, Biden's relations with Lula will come to the fore in near future. But China is also a factor in the diplomatic relations between the two countries. History tells us that no matter who is leading the US government, the US always views the world from the perspective of US versus China binary. In such a situation, it is quite likely that Brazil's attitude towards China under Lula will determine whether its relations with the US will improve, deteriorate, or remain neutral. However, both Bolsonaro and Lula have had better economic ties with China, despite differences at many levels between the two leaders. It implies that Brazil's trade with China has been in surplus. As per the data, Brazil's imported goods worth about $53.46 billion from China in 2021, while Brazil exported goods worth $88 billion to China during this period. On the contrary, Brazil has a trade deficit with India. In 2021, Brazil imported worth $7.23 billion from India, while Brazil exported goods worth $4.8 billion to India. Lula's victory in Brazil thus underscores the need to give further impetus to India-Brazil economic ties to establish a stronger bilateral relationship. It is also likely that the G4 group will actively work on the issue of permanent membership in the United Nations Security Council with a strong partnership in the coming times. Brazil and India, as well as Germany and Japan, are members of the G4 group. In addition, Brazil and India are members of several other multilateral groups such as BRICS, IPSA, Dialogue Forum, that is India, Brazil and South Africa Dialogue Forum, BASIC, that is Brazil, South Africa, India and China, G20 and International Solar Alliance. Moreover, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has also had a special deep camaraderie with right-wing leader Bolsonaro. Bolsonaro was invited as the chief guest during the Republic Day celebrations of India in 2020. But Prime Minister Modi has spoken of deepening bilateral ties with Brazil under the leadership of the leftist leader Lula. Prime Minister Modi has also shown readiness to work mutually with Brazil on global issues like tackling climate change, terrorism, etc. In this segment, we will talk about other significant international news. Preparations for the Arab League summit have begun in Algiers, the capital of Algeria, amid differences between the members of the Arab League. The summit is being organized for the first time after the coronavirus pandemic. But the Arab League is divided on regional issues such as the Palestinian issue, the regional roles of Iran and Turkey, and rehabilitation of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and United Arab Emirates leader Mohammed bin Zayed are not attending the summit due to the differences, while Morocco's King Mohammed VI has also refused to attend the summit due to Morocco's deteriorating relations with Algeria. The Arab League was formed in 1945 in Cairo, the capital of Egypt. The Arab League, which started with 6 members, currently has 22 members. However, Syria has been ousted from Arab League since November 2011. Last week, Armenia's Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan reached Tehran, the capital of Iran, after Russia and Azerbaijan over the ongoing conflict in the Caucasus region. In Tehran, the two leaders refused to accede to the Zanzibar corridor demanded by Turkey and Azerbaijan to provide a new transport linking the Nakhchivan region of Azerbaijan with the mainland of Azerbaijan. This corridor passes through Armenia, and Armenia considers this against its sovereignty. Both Armenia and Azerbaijan have been fighting over the Nagorno-Karabakh region for decades. The criticism of the confirmation of the use of Iranian drones in Ukraine is still ongoing. On the other hand, Saudi Arabia has accused Iran of preparing for war against Saudi Arabia, citing its intelligence. According to the Wall Street Journal newspaper, Saudi Arabia has also shared this intelligence with US officials, and the same has been confirmed by some US officials. The US administration criticized Iran heavily on this issue and pledged to provide all possible support to Saudi Arabia. However, relations between the US and Saudi Arabia have become very tense in the recent days over the issue of oil cuts in OPEC. Recently, India organized the first edition of the trilateral naval exercise with Mozambique and Tanzania to strengthen its claim on the Indian Ocean. The exercise was held in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. Guided missile frigates INS Tarkash and INS Marcos of the Indian Navy participated in this exercise. The military exercise aims to address common threats through training and information sharing, enhance interoperability, and strengthen maritime cooperation. The exercise was part of the Indian efforts to enhance cooperation and maritime security with neighbors in the Indian Ocean under the Sagar Initiative. Let's note down the question based on today's episode. The return of Lula da Silva as president in Brazil has once again turned Latin America on the pink tide. Reviewing the statement, underline the points of changes taking place in India-Brazil relations.